Welcome, friend. Thank you to everyone who listened to our 4 January launch episodes, and for those who took some time to drop a review. I appreciate it so much. Reviews help us get bumped up into the podcasts you may like feature on Apple Podcasts and help new Innerspace surfers find their way here. So if you haven't dropped a review and you find a few free minutes, please do help us spread the love. My intention is that this podcast is a portal to share information, resources, practitioners, and business owners that inspire, uplift, spark joy, or light a creative fire under your ass. A place where you listen to an episode and then you go on your own inner space exploration, uncovering which of these different modalities, healing processes, or creative exercises we share here that might help catalyze your next up level or quantum leap. I'm sharing a lot of my own personal stories to show some behind the scenes experiences with many of the modalities that I have tried that have helped me along my own multidimensional journey, and a few that I have not yet tried. I want to give you an inside peek as I continue to evolve and grow the spirited, cosmically created online business over at CamiK.com. So let's all take a deep breath, shall we? Okay, let's dive into episode 6. Brene Brown says, "Only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. Since February is the month of love, why not give yourself the greatest gift and add a little shadow work into your self-love plans?" So you might be thinking, I hear the term shadow work a lot, but what does it really mean? Yeah, shadow work gets tossed around the wellness, healing, spiritual, and metaphysical world a lot these days. So let's really break it down, shall we? According to Jeffrey Scott, the CEOsage, the shadow is the dark side of our personality because it consists chiefly of primitive, typically negative human emotions and impulses like rage, envy, greed, selfishness, desire, and the striving for power. All we deny in ourselves, whatever we perceive as inferior, evil, or acceptable, become part of the shadow. Scott's got a great overview and guide available on his website, and it looks like a healthy psychological-based perspective on shadow work. If you've not done much shadow work before, his resources might be a great place to start checking it out. We miss out on so much goodness and growth when we sweep our shadow under the rug, or stuff it in a closet, or slam it shut in the basement with all of our other creepy shit that we have hoarding in our psyches and subconscious minds. We got to get those cobwebs all out of there. Our shadow self gets a bad rap, though. It's actually any part of our personality that we've disowned, neglected, shamed, or made wrong or bad. My first experience really diving deep into shadow work was back in 2005 and 2006. This was a period of major personal awakening and transformation, including a long and painful dark night of the soul period. It was also some of the toughest and most emotionally charged years of my life. And while overall I felt like I was healing in a positive upward direction, there were many moments where I straight up thought I was losing my damn mind. One of many resources that helped me dive deep and peel back some shadowy layers was Debbie Ford's iconic book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. Debbie transitioned in 2013, but I gotta believe she's still doing her purpose work from the other side, as we're collectively in the biggest display of the shadow surfacing for attention that we've ever seen. But we won't get into that here. Here's the description of the book and Debbie's ideas about the shadow self. Debbie Ford believes that we each hold within us a trace of every human characteristic that exists, the capacity for every human emotion. We are born with the ability to express this entire spectrum of characteristics. But Ford points out, our families and our society send us strong messages about which ones are good and bad. So when certain impulses arise, we deny them instead of confronting them, giving them a healthy voice, and then letting them go. It is to these feelings that Ford turns our attention, these parts of ourselves that don't fit the persona we've created for the rest of the world. She shows us the effects of living in the dark, of keeping all our supposedly unsavory impulses under wraps. We find ourselves disproportionately frustrated and angry at the selfishness of friends, the laziness of colleagues, the arrogance of siblings. I know we can all resonate with some of that, right? When we're able to reconcile similar impulses in ourselves, Ford explains we waste our own energy judging others instead of empathizing. But most important, we deny ourselves the power and freedom of living authentically. Through the stories and exercises in The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, Debbie Ford shows us not only how to recognize our hidden emotions, but also how to find the gifts they offer us. The very impulses we most fear may be the key to what is lacking in our lives. Okay, so now that you have a better idea of what the shadow self really is, I'd like to share my personal experience using this book to excavate my own shadow, to explore my dark and twisty parts, and how I integrated many qualities that I had previously deemed as bad. Dun dun dun, the big bad word, right? Please know that this work is ongoing, lifelong process. A true dance with your shadow is around every corner, because as soon as you release one layer, another one pops up to be explored. I cannot stress enough that if you begin to dive deeper into your shadow, it is highly recommended that you have a solid support system in place. Consider working with a coach, a therapist, or a spiritual advisor. This work can be deeply triggering and can bring up repressed trauma or ancestral wounds. Your world will be rocked, and many relationships, friendships, and career situations may be challenged as old versions of you integrate, heal, or fall away, and new versions of you emerge. Just know that there are many gifts to be received, and that integrating these parts of ourselves is what helps us live more fully expressed and tapped into more of our unique superpowers. Okay, let's hop in the Wayback Machine. In 2005 and 2006, I was transitioning from working full-time in academic affairs and teaching part-time to full-time teaching. A major up-level was coming. I worked at Lindenwood University, formerly Lindenwood College, which is also the same school I attended as an undergrad. Go Lions! I was teaching classes like Intro to Public Speaking, Media Ethics, and Intro to Advertising. I was also working on 75 hours of life coach training through Coach U, one of the top coach training schools. Going through coach training is no joke. It can bring up many of your unhealed, unprocessed, and unlooked at dark and twisty parts. You essentially dump out your personal Pandora's box on the floor and begin to look inquisitively at every aspect of your life and ask, how's that working for you? Keep in mind, coaching is not the same thing as traditional therapy. In fact, many people work in conjunction with a therapist, as sometimes coaching can trigger repressed or unprocessed trauma or intense emotions. It all really just depends on what type of coaching you're doing and where you are along your personal healing and self-discovery journey. Amen to my coaching buddies, Katie Matson Craig of Momentum Coaching, and my sweet friend and artist, Carl McGonigal, both who held space for me and listened to me openly and wholeheartedly during those deeply transformational years. And gratefully, they still do. I'm just going to drop you into the scene where I was in my life when Debbie Ford's incredible tool of a book found its way to me. You know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. As I said, I was deep into my coach training and peeling back the onion. A few things that were already popping up for me were regularly feeling a bit of nausea or a blockage in my throat when I wanted to speak up. It happened in work meetings, it happened with friends, it happened with a person I was in an on-again, off-again dysfunctional relationship with, it happened with family members. It was happening all the time. I would literally freeze up and shut down. I would feel sick to my stomach and not be able to say what I wanted to say. Now I understand much of this was rooted in fear of saying something the other person wouldn't like. Fear of feeling judged for having an opposing opinion, fear of not being liked, lots of fears about what would other people think, what if they don't like me, what if they leave me, etc., etc. And to be clear, while I'm way better at using my voice and speaking my truth today, obviously, I'm here on this podcast sharing this with you, it's still a deep-rooted shadowy aspect, and I'm constantly dancing with my shadow to overcome those restricting thoughts. Another regular occurrence during that time period has happened to me many times just before I'm about to bust through another personal glass ceiling and up level. In fact, it's actually happening to me in the past several weeks. So here's what was happening. I would open up my closet and not feel like any of my clothes were me. In 2005 and 2006, I didn't really have a solid personal style. I wasn't the former version of me, but I wasn't the me that I was becoming. I could feel future me, the one who was working with coaching clients and stepping into my first coaching business, who was teaching full-time at the college. She was much more clear on how she communicated who she was via her personal style. She expressed so clearly that just by seeing her walk by on the street or sitting at a coffee shop, someone could instantly pick up her vibe, energy, and intentions about who she was and how she showed up in the world. I remember standing in front of my closet and saying, whose clothes are these? I don't want to wear any of this. But I would be super frustrated because I had no idea what I did want to wear. I totally remember some of my early Passion Meets Purpose coaching website photos. I wore this one top because I thought it's what the coach version of me was supposed to look like. But I wasn't really tuned into my authentic self yet. So it all really just felt like smoke and mirrors. Aw, sweet 2005, 2006 KK. She was trying so hard. And that's the thing. I was trying so hard. I hadn't really tapped into my next level intuition skills or trusting the signs and synchronicities that were coming to me. I was aware of them, but I kept trying to make things happen back then versus surrendering and allowing the flow of the co-creative process with Source to guide the way as I do now. So, control freak, overachiever, good girl, perfectionista, all describe shadowy layers that were triggered hardcore back then. And obviously I'm still working to dismantle layers of these aspects even now. Okay, so I had the book on hold at the library. It had been recommended by a friend as a resource that might help me process through some of the stuff that was coming up for me. I was at work, and at the time, I shared an office with a coworker who was on the surface very different than me. No surprise, I was all glam, red or fuchsia lipstick, hair maxed out. I remember lots of form-fitting tops and knee-length skirts and boots combos. My office mate, she wore traditional polo-type shirts, Dockers or khakis, and loafers. She even would wear the occasional Winnie the Pooh sweatshirt on casual Fridays. She wasn't into makeup or trendy hairstyles. So where I was yoga and meditation and tiny Buddha statues on my desk, she was fishing and hunting and tiny Disney desk mates. One afternoon during this very emotionally charged time, I started to feel the sensation rise up in my throat again. I got nauseous and I started to feel my heart racing. I got hot all over. My legs began to tingle and I was lightheaded and dizzy. Unbeknownst to me, I was having a panic attack type of episode. I started to float up and out of my body. I was literally hovering above her and I in the office and watching the activity and hustle bustle of the students as they were swirling in and out of our office. I was super freaked out. How am I down there and up here, I thought. I literally was watching myself talk to her and other students who were stopping in to ask us questions about their schedules and their records. But then something else started to happen. In my awareness, I felt that she and I were the same. We looked different on the surface and our personalities appeared to be quite opposite, but I tuned into her energy field and on that level, we were one. It was definitely an odd experience for me at the time. Now I'm used to odd experiences, and I knew I needed to get out of there. Somehow I managed to say to her, I'm heading out to grab a coffee. I'll be back in a bit. I grabbed my keys and my purse and I hopped in my car to a quaint coffee shop down the street. I knew I needed some space and I had to get back in my body. After chugging some water and sipping on some hot tea, I figured caffeine wasn't the smartest choice once I got there. I had a very serendipitous conversation with an attractive stranger. I won't share the details, but I know he was sent there to help calm me down and transition through that heightened emotional state.